Hello and welcome. We're tracking some major developing stories for you today, from big political shifts in Venezuela and Uganda to what's happening in the markets and even a pretty cool discovery out in space. So let's jump right in with the headlines.
First up, we're in the Americas, where there's been a really dramatic shift in power in Venezuela. A new interim president is now in office, and it happened right after U.S. military action.
Then we head over to Africa. Uganda's election has been contentious, to say the least, and it just took a very sharp turn. We're getting reports that the main opposition leader has been taken by the military.
And in Asia, a major verdict is in. A former South Korean president has just been sentenced in a pretty landmark case. We've got all the details on these stories and a lot more coming right up.
Okay, so first, let's dive a little deeper into these pressing international developments.
We're going to start in Uganda. The general election back on January 15th has been, well, fraught with tension. The whole vote took place under a nationwide internet blackout, which the government ordered. They said it was to stop misinformation from spreading. As you can imagine, the situation on the ground has become incredibly volatile. We're now hearing reports that clashes between police and protesters have turned deadly. At least 7 people have been killed in the town of Butambala alone. But here's the most critical development. The main opposition party is saying that their leader and presidential candidate, Bobi Wine, was taken from his home. They say security forces stormed his house and he was taken away in a military helicopter. Right now, nobody knows where he is. Now let's switch gears and head to Venezuela, because a whole new chapter has just started in Caracas. Delcy Rodriguez has officially been sworn in as the interim president. This comes after Nicolas Maduro was captured during recent U.S. military strikes in the capital. And as you'd expect, this move by the U.S. is causing some major international ripples. Over in neighboring Cuba, tens of thousands of people gathered in Havana to protest, all of them demanding Maduro's release. Cuba's foreign ministry is calling the demonstration a direct response to, in their words, threats against peace and sovereignty. We also have a brief but really crucial update coming out of the Middle East. A second phase of a ceasefire in Gaza has officially started, but its stability is already being called into question. We're getting reports of new Israeli attacks that have killed at least 10 Palestinians. All right, next up, let's take a look at the economic picture, see how markets are reacting to everything that's going on, and check in on some key corporate news. So looking at the U.S. pre-market session, it seems like there's some cautious optimism. S&P 500 futures are up just a tiny bit, crude oil is climbing towards $60 a barrel, and gold is staying strong. It suggests that even with all this geopolitical turmoil, some key markets are holding pretty steady. Over in Washington, a new policy is taking shape to deal with the absolutely massive amount of energy that data centers use. The White House is planning to announce what they're calling a wholesale energy auction. Basically, it would force major tech companies to bid on long-term contracts to help pay for building new power plants. We're seeing a bit of a mixed bag today from the U.S. banking sector. On one hand, you have PNC Financial Services, whose shares are up about 3% after they beat their earnings estimates. But on the other hand, you have State Street and Regions Financial. Both of their shares fell after they reported weaker results. And in some other corporate news, shares for the logistics giant J.B. Hunt are down more than 3% today. That drop came right after the company reported that its fourth quarter revenue fell by 2%, mostly because they had fewer shipping loads. This could be something to watch, a sign of some broader concern over shipping demand. Okay, now for a quick look at some other important stories that are making headlines all around the world. Let's go back to that headline from South Korea. The High Court in Seoul has delivered its verdict. They've sentenced former President Yoon Suk Yeol to 5 years in prison. The conviction is for obstructing justice and for excluding cabinet members during that very controversial declaration of martial law he made back in 2024. Now to a truly tragic story coming out of southern Africa. Severe torrential rains have caused just devastating floods. We're hearing that at least 100 people have been killed across Mozambique, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, and thousands of homes have been completely destroyed. And in Pakistan, the military is reporting that its forces carried out an operation in the Karan district of Balochistan province. They say at least 12 militants were killed. This happened after an attack on a police station, and the militants allegedly belonged to the Baloch Liberation Army. And for our final section, we're going to shift our focus away from Earth and look up to the cosmos, to a puzzle that has had scientists scratching their heads for a while now. So if you've seen those incredible images from the James Webb Space Telescope, you know what I'm talking about. For years, astronomers have been seeing these mysterious little red dots in deep space images, and the big question has just been, what in the world are they? Well, it turns out new research has finally given us an answer. These red dots aren't distant galaxies or some kind of strange star. They are young, growing, supermassive black holes. They glow red because they are just voraciously eating all the gas and dust around them, all while being hidden inside these really dense cosmic clouds. A pretty amazing solution to a cosmic mystery.
And that brings us to the end of this global news bulletin. Let's recap the top stories. Delcy Rodriguez is now Venezuela's interim president after Nicolas Maduro was captured. In Uganda, opposition leader Bobi Wine has been taken by the military amid a turbulent election, and a court in South Korea has sentenced former President Yoon Suk Yeol to 5 years in prison.
We will have another update for you in 24 hours. To continue following these stories and more, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for joining us.